But people, unfortunately, and I see this with a lot of my clients, a lot of people around me too, they like to be unhappy because if they're unhappy, they can blame it on everything and anyone. So I had this person very close to me who every morning she will call me and be negative about everything. I said, you know what? This doesn't work for me. I'm sorry. If you wanted to call me and tell me something good. And then we can maybe talk.
Hello, spiritual friends, and welcome to another episode of Life Ascended, where we focus on our ascension and tapping into our personal growth and development and how can we live our best life every day. And I am so excited. We're going to talk about happiness today. Wow, what a great topic. And I'm bringing on a beautiful guest. I can't wait for you all to meet her. We've got Nathalie Botros, also known as the Bon-Vivant Girl, which I love because it's French, known as the Happiness Activator. She wears many hats, including she is a psychotherapist, author, speaker, mindset, and happiness coach. And she has a special focus on empowering individuals to reclaim their happiness, find harmony in their lives, and bridge the gap between their current path and their dream life. Yay. Thank you so much for being here, Nathalie.
Thank you so much for having me, Cynthia. I'm so excited to be here.
Yay. So, happiness is a favorite topic of mine because a lot of people in my life over the years have been the exact opposite of that.
Okay.
So, for example, my ex-husband was severely depressed, and it ended up breaking up our marriage. After 19 years, it was too much. I just couldn't deal with it anymore.
I can
So,
imagine.
so let's kind of start there, maybe on there's a lot of people suffering out there, and there's a lot of people who are, there's like the blues, like having the blues, and then there's like the deeper depression, you know. So I guess my question is, where would somebody like that start? What would you recommend for them?
So already, you know that they did studies to understand why we're happy, why we're not happy. And they noticed that, I mean, through the studies, like there was this amazing research that I love, and they said that 50% of our happiness comes from genetics. So basically, the fact that if we see, a glass half full or half empty, it's not our choice, it's our genetics. And that's already a lot. And funnily, I don't come from a happily predisposed family either, but I beat the odds.
Yeah.
But for example, your ex-husband probably he had that. And they say the study says that 40% of our happiness comes with what the researchers call intentional activities. It's what we decide to do every day to
Hmm.
make us happy.
Yeah, makes sense.
And only 10% comes from external factors, which are, like how we look, our partners, uh, our salary, our job, like everything that is not within.
Hmm.
So if someone comes to me, we first of all, we already talk about that and we kind of try to figure out if they're coming from unhappy or happy background. But don't worry, because again, as I said, I don't come from a happy background, but those 40, I always work on those 40% and we set intentional activities, intentional steps, intentional exercises that we can include in our daily life to bring that smile every day. And the last 10% comes always. And like in the balance, like it's like 50-50 and we
Mhm.
win. The happiness win.
Yeah, interesting. So, yeah, I didn't know those statistics, so that's really interesting. So we got to focus on our daily stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I created this, I wasn't, I mean, again, I was happy. I was always someone kind of happy, but I was chasing something and I didn't know what it was. And actually, it was happiness. And I chased it not only in the external, in external factors. I always say the external because like they're like so present in our lives, in external factors, but I chased it in countries, in cities. I used to live in Switzerland. I moved to Italy, and then I said, no, that's not enough. I crossed the Atlantic. I said, okay, let me come to the US. Maybe it's where it's gonna have. I changed jobs. I changed everything just to find that thing missing in my life, and I didn't know what it was then.
Mm.
Later on, I understood that it was happiness. So we
Mm.
always do that. We always chase that.
Mm.
And when I moved to the US 20 plus years ago, I said, okay, come on. I'm in New York. I moved to New York. It's an exciting city. I have everything. This is it. I'm going to be happy. This thing that I'm missing, it's happiness. But what do you know? Coming from Europe, being in the US, I gained weight, the deliveries and everything.
Yeah.
So I gained 40 pounds in less than a year. And trust me, I'm not very tall. So that was a lot of differences on my body. And instead of finding my happiness, I even lost my self love, my self respect, my self confidence. And I was like at a lowest point until the day, one day I watched this show, I don't know, this TV show. I was home doing the latest diet, eating my 3 carrots and injecting myself with like diet pills and stuff.
Oh,
There
no.
was the show called Love Yourself Naked. And
Mm.
in this show, they were choosing several women from different type of bodies. And first of all, they were asking them to stand next to each other to decide like, where they belong. They always saw themselves bigger than what they were to start with. And during the show, they helped them how to get dressed, how to, flatter themselves. And the last shot is doing nude pictures of them and put it in Times Square
Oh my
on
God.
a I know, on a board and asking. I mean, it's by a professional photographer, obviously. They're like they see. It's not like
Wow, that's
and
terrifying.
people passing by, they ask them what they think about that. And everybody is like amazed that they're like, oh, she's beautiful, she's stunning. So obviously I didn't put myself on Times Square. But I said, you know what, let me do my own version. And I put myself in front of a mirror naked, but not only naked figuratively, even like emotionally.
Mm.
And I stood in front of a mirror every day and tried to find something about my body that I loved that right now I was hating because I was like, I thought that I looked like a monster. And about myself as well, to gain my self-confidence. And it was really not easy at the beginning, I promise you.
Oh, I'm
But with
sure.
time,
Mhm.
slowly, I started to see, I was like, actually, I'm not that bad. But I started with the hair, with the head, with the shoulder. And then like, it was like the body. I said, actually, I'm not that bad. And then like, more I was like accepting myself, more my self-confidence was coming. And I'm like, you're actually stunning. I did it until I was obsessed with myself and I was loving myself inside and out.
Mm.
And the funny thing is like during that time, I didn't lose weight, but my energy shifted so much that I was radiating happiness, and people were like, "What happened? Like, there's something different with you. Did you lose weight? Did you do this? Did you?" I was like, "No, nothing. It's just I'm working on myself." So that was where I became the Bon-Vivant Girl, and where I understood those 40%, those little tricks that you can do to be happy. And I
Mm.
said, this should be my mission to spread
Mm.
this message.
I love that because people are so future oriented, I think. It's
Yes.
like I'll be happy when I have the big house. I'll be happy when I have the, $1 million in the bank and so it's always in the future and it's usually
Yeah.
some really elusive, arbitrary
Yeah.
future, right?
It's like when or if, like they
Yeah.
condition or it's like when. It's like it's always like that. It's true.
Yeah.
And they don't just enjoy the moment now and like finding happiness now. And it's not that complicated. I promise you, it's not that complicated.
Yeah, and your energy is, very glowing and exuberant and yeah, I think you really do embody that bon vivant, that's amazing.
Lifestyle.
Yeah, it's
No,
awesome.
I try to find, it's like, for example, I have a lot of like tips and tools,
Mhm.
and I try to practice them on myself. If it doesn't work on me, I don't propose. I don't say you should do that. And when it works, like finding the positive is like something that I do really a lot is, I mean, everything cannot be perfect peachy, let's be honest. But
Sure.
whenever something bad happens, I mean, a bad situation, I always try to find the happy, the positive, and the silver lining from it. So if it's like something bad, it's like it became kind of a game for myself and for my clients. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, let's find the positive on this, like any bad thing.
Mhm.
And at the beginning, they struggle, but with time, they're loving it because like they see the other side. I mean, we can do all the pessimistics, they can do the same thing on the other side too, for every solution they find a problem. So let's switch that, let's flip the script.
Right, it's the perspective. Yeah.
Exactly.
And I always look
And
at less like I look at everything like
look
a
at everything like,
lesson or something that we're working towards on a soul evolution. So sometimes we have these problems that come up, and it's not to punish us or beat us up or make us sad, but it's there to actually help us grow and evolve. And we're meant to really exalt all of these challenges. Would you
yeah,
agree with that?
totally. And if there were no challenges, life would be so boring. Let's be honest. Our life, I mean, we need challenges.
Yeah.
So we know when it's like, we know the difference between the calm and the challenging and the happy time too, if that
Right.
makes sense. Like, everything cannot be positive. Like, we need some negativity to see the beauty of the positivity.
hmm
So, what you're saying is totally correct.
Mm.
But people, unfortunately, and I see this with a lot of my clients, a lot of people around me too, they like to be unhappy because if
Mhm.
they're unhappy, they can blame it on everything and anyone.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up because I know a bunch of people like that.
Like it's not my fault. It's like, all this happened to me. It's not my fault. I don't have this. I don't have that. Or like they did this to me. But I mean, why are you placing yourself as a victim? Reclaim that happiness. You
hmm
have the power to shift it. But they don't want to do that because they're scared. And I,
Mm.
I understand that too. It's hard because, they know how is it to be unhappy and it's like kind of their comfort zone
hmm
and they're scared to try the other side of it.
Yeah, exactly. And it could be so much ingrained in a habit, right? We develop these habits. And it's like, do you realize you have a habit of suffering?
I mean, I have clients and I know people too. Every time that I say something good, they're like, but this happened. But I'm like, no, don't find like problems. Like, stop saying but for the negative. Say but for the positive.
Exactly.
And I'm sure, like with those people, you have the same experience.
Yeah. Well, for the most part, I've just extricated myself from their lives because I just refuse to be in that victim energy.
I
And
love
so, it's like, okay, that's your life and I'm gonna just love you from afar, but I am not participating in this uh negative behavior
I
because
love that.
it's just not where I'm at. And it's not
Yeah,
where I want to be, and it's not what I'm focusing on. And it's like if you decide you want to come to the other side and actually see what happiness and fulfillment in life looks like, I'll be here and I hold
yeah.
space.
Well,
Yeah,
self-care.
hold space for that.
Yeah,
But yeah, I've given up on like trying to fix everybody.
that's good. But what you're doing, it's self-care.
Yeah.
And my mom calls those people the bad seeds. When, I was younger, I had like those friends with bad influences, like they will make me do naughty stuff. She was like, oh, get rid of those bad seeds. But those people that you're talking, they're bad seeds as well, because they don't bring anything to your life. And you cannot let them drag you down. You have to
Yeah.
protect yourself. And it's like self care, it's very important.
For sure.
emotional self-care, you know, and
Hmm.
what you're doing, it's so right. And I see a lot of people who are hanging on to those people. They're like, oh, Mickey, they need my help. I feel you. Don't feel guilty. Think about yourself.
Hmm. Right, because if you are not in a good space
You
emotionally,
cannot help anyone.
exactly. So, yeah, once
Yeah,
I
it's not
really,
selfish.
yeah, once I learned that, I'm like, boy, that's not being selfish. That's just being ascended, right? That's the
Yeah,
ascension pathway. You're ascending that victim energy and you're ascending that story that somebody is determined to continue. And it's like, no, I'm not participating in that.
yeah. No, I agree. I totally agree. And you do very, very well. And everybody should follow your lead and do the same.
Which is easier said than done sometimes, especially if
I
it's
know.
a spouse or if it's a parent or a child, that gets to be a lot harder, I think. But I think you're right, is we need to take personal responsibility for our happiness.
Yeah.
And
But the thing is, I agree, it's hard when it's a close person. And I live that. But you cannot cut them out, obviously. Like you cannot cut everyone out, but you can put boundaries.
mhm,
So I had this person very close to me who was like always like every morning she will call me and be negative about everything. You know, like I will like every morning our call was listening all the complaints. I said, you know what? This doesn't work for me. I'm sorry. If you wanted to call me and tell me something good. And then we can maybe talk. And
yay,
honestly, and I said, if you don't, I'm going to hang up the phone. I set the boundary and it worked.
that's
So
awesome.
you can set those boundaries. It's
Yeah.
like, you know, with respect, you don't have to like tell them, okay, I'm done with you. But with
Hmm.
respect, say, I said, I cannot take it every morning. It's too negative for me.
Hmm. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's like I get that with my mom sometimes, and I do call her every week, so I'm really proud of myself that I still talk to my mother every single week and she is a wonderful person and I love her very much. But she does tend to fall into some negative, like news patterns, and she likes to report on the disasters of the world. And did
Yeah,
you hear about this earthquake? And,
exactly. What we gonna do?
and I just kind of laugh about it because it's like, well, yeah, I may have heard about the earthquake, or maybe I didn't, but it doesn't matter because it's not going to affect me personally,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, I know. I mean, my moms, they take everything to, but I mean, I think it's a quality of moms. They have to take care of everything and everyone. And like for them, like it's, you know, it's a big news.
Yeah, that's true.
But I
So,
mean, it's huge. I mean, you talk once a week. I talk to my mom two, three times a day.
oh wow. And I thought I was doing really, really well.
I mean, like she's the original Bon-Vivant Girl. I have a like very close relationship with her. But I mean, two, three times a day, probably like during our shooting, she's gonna try to call me because I tell her I'm shooting, you know, like I'm having a podcast. Don't call. You can be sure she'll call.
Yeah, I tell my husband the same thing. I tell him I'm going to be filming the next hour. Please don't interrupt me.
Come, don't call. I mean, it's normal.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. He
It's
just
nice.
he just walked in the room and walked back out. It's
There
like
you go.
okay, yeah, remember I'm filming.
Yeah,
But it's all
but I
good.
mean, yeah, exactly. But there's another thing that touching all this, it's enjoying the power of now. And talking about moms, I want to talk about this because like, it's important. My mom lives in Turkey, so whenever I go to visit her, let's say I go for 10 days. The first day she starts telling me, oh, such a shame you're leaving in 10 days. I'm like, Mom, I just arrived. Like, why don't we enjoy the moment now instead of thinking about my departure in 10 days?
Yeah.
And I mean, it's what we all do. I mean, we don't do the same way, obviously, but we all do that. Instead of like enjoying now what's happening this moment, we always like think ahead and then, okay, oh, in 10 days this is going to happen, or like, you know, and
Yeah.
it's like, it's so sad that we don't enjoy this moment.
Mm. That is so true. What a great point. So everybody right now, whoever's listening, let's take a moment to appreciate that we have this beautiful person that we're talking to, Nathalie, and she is helping us remember that we can be grateful for something right in this very moment. Okay, so that's such a good point. So I'm grateful that I get to talk to you right now.
I'm grateful too. I'm
Yeah.
enjoying it.
Yeah, me too. This is a great conversation. So let's talk about your happiness cocktail. I mean, this is
Yeah.
this is your thing, your gig. So you came up with 5 keys. I want to know what these 5 keys are. Can you share with us?
Okay, so as I told you, I said, okay, happiness comes within. I mean, we all heard that, but what it is, it's like those actionable steps. And I said, you know what? I need to create kind of a blueprint. And as I'm the Bon-Vivant Girl, I wanted to make it more fun. I said, let's call it the happiness cocktail. And no alcohol, but my 5 ingredients, as you said, they're like they will make you happy with dizziness, dizziness of happiness and blue, everything fun. And the first ingredient, it's what I was just talking about. It's love, and actually self-love, because everything starts from that point. If we don't love ourselves, we're not capable to know how to be loved
Mm,
and and to love others. So it's like it's really important. And our self-love also helps us to find the self-trust, confidence, and for us to move forward. So love, it's really, really important. But you have to love yourself regardless of external factors, regardless of your job, regardless of your body image, your relationship status, like really the raw mirror, naked,
hmm
figurative and real self. So
mm.
that's the first one, love.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. The second one is smile. And I love smiling, but I love smiling not because I love smiling, because even if you force a smile, it can trigger your neurotransmitters, actually your happiness hormones, and think that you're happy. So even if you don't feel, and they did a research about that, which is funny. They asked people
Mm.
to put pencil between their teeth, right
Yeah,
here,
yeah.
and this motion kind of triggered their brain that "But you're smiling, you don't need to force it." And it
Mm.
triggered, and those people were like kind of happier.
Mm.
So, I mean, basically, it's like fake it until you make it. But it's not that wrong. But
Yeah,
of
that
course,
makes
I mean,
sense.
you cannot always force that smile.
Hmm
It's what I was saying before. It's like, finding the positive in everything, finding the silver lining in everything. If something bad happens, for example, you wake up, you say, I'm tired. How do you feel all day?
You feel tired.
Of course.
Mhm.
But if you wake, because like you set that motion into your mind, into your body, and you're like tired all day. But if you wake up, you say, I'm tired, but it was so worth it. I finished the project, I was out with friends. That negativity disappears with the positivity.
Mhm.
So your day will be better. You're like, maybe you will feel a little tired, but you will have a smile still.
Definitely.
So, they say that in a room, you cannot have two strong emotions at the same time. So, if you put the negativity in that room and you transform it with the but, and you put positivity, if the positivity is stronger, it's like, as if it's a dark room and you turn on the light. The
Hmm.
positivity shines so much that you don't see the negativity.
Mm. Yeah, that's great. I love that.
So, yeah, be the switch. I mean, even with the smile or finding by the positivity, and more positive you will be, more you'll have positive things happening to you. We know that the energy you attract, we're magnets.
Like the
And even if,
momentum. Yeah, starting the momentum going in the positive
exactly.
direction.
And if that doesn't work, I have another trick. It's called the happiness bank. It's like the little place in your mind that I call the happiness bank. And every time that something good happens in your life, you deposit in there. And whenever you face a challenge or like something that doesn't want you to be happy, you go and retrieve one of those memories to bring that smile back.
That reminds me of like the Harry Potter and the Pensieve, where he plucks out the memory and he sticks it in there. You know,
I really,
yeah, that's what it
I
reminds
don't
me of.
remember that part. I
Yeah,
read them all, but I don't remember. But yeah, it works.
yeah.
Magic.
It's like, I want to remember this memory. Yeah, that's a good point because yeah, we can focus on the negative and the trauma and the stress and the doom and the gloom, or yeah, we can go back to a happy memory or something that really worked out for us. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, ooh, I love that.
So love, smile, invest, but not invest your money, invest in opportunities that knock on your door. Say yes to new things. Say you have nothing to lose to say yes. I'm not saying like jump all in, but you can try. For example, I mean, you and I, we were in LA this year together, and you met my partner. Before our first day, I wasn't going to go to that date. I was like, oh no, he doesn't, because I had the perfect partner list, he
Uh-huh.
had to be this, he had to be that. He was not fitting in my list. But I said yes. And
Yeah.
that investment paid a lot. It's been 5 years and we're like still going strong. So,
Mm.
I mean, for me, it was personal, but it can be for your job. For example, you're not happy with your job. I'm not saying leave everything, but say yes. Like check other opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Try to
Sure.
work on your passions. Maybe something will come out. I had some clients like they were like investment banking, making a lot of money, and they were not happy. So they invested in because they loved photography and traveling. So they started doing that, and slowly they build a business. Maybe they're not making as much money, but they're living with their passion. They're waking up with a smile every day.
Yeah, they're having a lot more fun and yeah.
Exactly. Because the problem is like they were making maybe a lot of money, but they were working so much that they couldn't even enjoy their money. So,
Mm.
and money, it's an external factor too. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I have a funny story about that actually. When I used to own a restaurant, which, not everybody knows this, but
yeah,
I worked 7 years in that restaurant and I was probably working 80 to 100 hours a week. I mean, it was ridiculous hours. I literally didn't do anything else, during that time.
my God.
Fortunately, I was seasonal, so at least we closed in the winter because it was outside of Zion National Park. But it's funny because I started calling those my slave years. Now that I'm out of them.
Yeah, I
You
can
know?
imagine.
But it was funny because from a spiritual perspective, I'm like, gosh, what is behind all of this? And my spirit guides actually came in and they told me, well, you were actually balancing a karmic uh, debt that you chose to balance in this lifetime, and it had to do with being a slave owner in some previous experiences. And I'm like, oh my God. And they're like, and you mostly balanced it with those 7 years in the restaurant.
You're kidding me. Okay, that's interesting.
I know, and that's what I was thinking too. And it's like how funny that I referred to it as the slave years, and I was balancing slavery, they call it authority distortions. And it's like, oh my goodness, how funny. So sometimes we think, oh my gosh, this is such a waste of time, or why am I stuck in this
Yes.
crap and I have to deal with
Yeah.
this? And it wasn't all bad, obviously, just the hours and the hours on your feet, obviously. I used to get horrible restless leg syndrome at night and, terrible pains in my legs. But and all that's gone now because I don't have to stand 10, 12, 15 hours a day.
Yeah.
It makes a
Yeah, that changes.
difference.
But still, I
Yeah.
think it's so interesting. I love that.
Yeah. But now, see, now I can look back on those years with a lot of joy and a lot of gratitude because it's like, yeah, not only was I helping a lot of people, I was serving a lot of people, I was making, somebody's visit to Zion National Park more joyful. Um, and I was fulfilling my own karmic agenda at the same time. And was it forever? No, it was 7 years and then we were done. And then I got to move into reading hands. I mean, it's all like it was all so perfect. And I look at everything like that now. It's like nothing was a waste of time, and that I think is a good perspective for people to have too. Like, just don't have regrets over the decisions that you made in the moment, right?
I totally agree with you. And that's actually one of my ingredients, and I call it move because it's like you have to move, from your past traumas or like, like those bad experience to better ones and not let them define you and like learn from them. I mean, for you, it was like even like deeper. It was like your karmic balance, but learn from them to serve you better today.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, that's
Absolutely.
like one of my ingredients. I mean, like move, obviously move your body, but move like emotionally and like mentally from that, and which
Yeah.
is very important.
Yeah, definitely. So, okay, great. Well, I love that. Did we get to all five? Was that all five of
No,
them?
so that was move, and basically move your life from ordinary to extraordinary.
Yeah.
And the fifth one is enjoy.
Oh,
Enjoy life. Enjoy. Become a bon-vivant girl, bon-vivant boy. Enjoy life. It's like
yeah.
really the most important. I mean, I get happy even when I boil water. It's like, like enjoy
Mm.
everything you're doing.
Hmm.
Even like boring tasks, make them fun. Just enjoy life.
Yeah. Yeah, that's terrific. So,
So the funny thing is, like the ingredients, smile, move, invest, love, and enjoy. If you look at their first letters, it comes out as smile. So the
oh, I love
ingredients
that.
of the happiness cocktail,
Mhm.
it's a smile.
Yes, it's an acronym. Yay, I love acronyms. As a pilot,
Yeah.
we get to know a lot of acronyms too. So every
Exactly. So
everything's an
you will
acronym.
remember smile. I mean, like I don't put them in order because like for me, love it's first, but like when you put them all in it, you mix
Uh-huh.
them, it's fine. So
Yeah.
SMILE,
Yeah.
smile.
Well, it's the cocktail.
It's the perfect cocktail for a smile.
I love that. So I thought maybe we would take a quick little look at your hands since you did submit
Yay.
your hands to me.
Yes.
And specifically, I thought this would be really good for the audience because there are happiness markers and then there are unhappiness markers.
Let's see.
So we'll look at Natalie's hands and see what we see.
I'm
But
curious.
this will be kind of fun. So, and the good news is, of course, a lot of the markers that do show up in your hands are lines and they're changeable, right? So we don't have to feel like we're stuck with this marker for the rest of our lives if we have, say, one of those sadness indicators. So just keep that in mind as we take a look. And for those who are just listening, I will describe it so that we can just see what's going on. So the first thing I wanted to just point out in the hands is we have this finger right here, our Jupiter finger. Okay, we call this also the index finger, right, or the pointer finger. When this finger is longer than the ring finger, this is actually a happiness indicator. All right.
Oh,
So, because Jupiter represents not only how you look at yourself, but it represents optimism, the qualities of Jupiter. Jovial, the term jovial comes from Jupiter. So if we have lots of Jupiter energy, then that's an indication that you just are not really designed to be depressed. Okay. So,
okay.
so obviously in your case, Natalie, you are longer in your Jupiter. Okay. So
Yeah,
definitely a good quality. Um,
we
I'm
like it.
I'm also long in my Jupiter. By the way, this is more common in women than in men. Okay, so men typically will have more of a longer Apollo finger or the ring finger. So that's one area to check for. Another thing just to look at in terms of your fingers is, do your fingers all stand up straight? Okay, so if they start to bend, that is going to bring in a little bit more of a stress. Okay, so particularly if you have a big Saturn finger, which is your middle finger, and it's also bending, that can be problematic. Okay, so that would be more of a like Saturn represents seriousness and work and your attitude towards your work. So I would definitely say for you, Nathalie, you're a Jupiterian. So yeah, you're right in alignment with your jovial, happy self. Okay. So
I
that's
love that.
yeah, that's
So
fun.
it's in both hands or only the right because I'm a right-hander. Like, would we have to can we
Well,
look on both hands?
yes, if we had more time, we would look at both
Yeah.
hands.
Okay. No, but
But
it's just like
yes,
by curiosity for other people,
yes,
who okay.
good
That's
question.
interesting.
Yeah, because we definitely, you can have different length fingers, by the way, from your right hand to your left hand as well. So that is, you know, different archetypes can show up. And if let's just take a quick look at your archetype. I'm going to measure out your hand shape. So what I do is I look at your middle finger relative to your palm, and I would say you have short fingers, and
No, I
your
have very long fingers.
not relative to your palm.
Not relative to my palm, yeah. Because
Yeah,
I'm not very tall, but I have very big feet and
yeah,
hands,
yeah. No,
toes and
your
fingers.
palm is super, super long, and so you're actually a fire element hand shape. Okay.
Okay.
So, and with the combination of the strong Jupiter finger, this is a chariot archetype. Okay, so everybody has different qualities that come through the archetypes. Chariots are the go-getters. They are the ones to set the example for others. They are always, charging ahead. You know,
That's
so
me.
yeah, so and fire is very freedom oriented too. So you need to have a job that gives you a lot of freedom. And ultimately you transform people, because fire is it's the element of transformation. So you can take somebody's stuff and you can uplift it and elevate it and transform it. So that's definitely your archetype. You're totally doing, what you should be doing, I would say. So yeah, so that's great to see, like in your hand shape. Now
That's so cool.
there are some sadness indicators, which I'm going to point out, which I don't see in your hands. But one place to look is underneath that middle finger. That sometimes people will have what's called a ring of Saturn. It'll be like a little half moon that goes around this finger. That is definitely a depression marker. So we would want to heal that if it's on your own hands. Another thing to look for is actually blue in the hands. So, your hands, Nathalie, are beautiful, pink, healthy looking color, but some people will have tinges of blue. And so, depending on where the blue is located, could indicate what they're sad about. But we want to steer clear of the blue coloring. Typically, I'll see it down here in Venus, which is the thumb ball region of the hand. That's usually where it shows up. Okay. So another sadness indicator would be inside just this region here of I call this Uranus, which is your point of change. And so if we look just on the inside of the lifeline, occasionally there is a star that's located right here. It's not very common, but I call it a sorrow star. Okay, so if looking at your own hands, whoever's watching this or listening to this, that would be one other place to check for sadness. Now, for optimism and for just your ability to fulfill your life and, to be happy, we want to look at the heart line. Okay, the heart line, that's your emotional flow. And you talked about love, right, at the beginning, and how it's so important for us to be in connection with our self-love and just how do we express ourselves emotionally. that is going to be here in this heart line. So it's the line just underneath, starts underneath your little finger. So it starts over here and it will come up either towards your middle finger, or it'll go over here towards your Jupiter finger, or sometimes it'll be straight. Okay, now Nathalie, in your case, you've got a very fiery heart line. Okay, it's curving and it's curving right up here to Saturn, which means that emotionally you are all about the passion, the fire. You are all about taking care of yourself. You're getting those emotions up and out. You're not wasting time on it. And so what I love about this heart line is that all children start out with this heart line. Okay, so when you think about
Ah,
like a little baby, you know, how do little babies express themselves? Well, they tell you exactly what they're feeling all the time, right? When they're happy, they're laughing. When they're hungry, they're crying. When they're, you know,
yeah.
you never have to guess with a baby how they feel, right? But a lot of times as we get older, this heart line will change, you know. And so I love that you are really in touch with like that inner child emotional energy. And so you're expressing it and you're passionate, and you're not holding the grudges, you know. So sometimes when we have like the longer heart line, that's somebody who's going to hold on to those emotions a lot longer than is maybe necessary, right? Especially when we think of the negative emotions. So so you're not like that. You're very passionate, expressive. You're getting it out there. And another
I love it.
marker that is very positive for you is you've got this little ring coming around your Jupiter finger. Okay, now this is a gift marker. We call this the Ring of Solomon, and it represents emotional intelligence. So you are somebody who not only you're in touch with your own feelings and you're getting them up and out, but you also have an innate intelligence to help other people with their emotional stress. So, you know, again, it's like, are you doing what you're supposed to be doing? I would say so. I mean, yeah, it's showing right up here in your hands. And you've got a healing stigmata over here, which is these little lines that are vertical little lines that come off of the little finger. So these represent the mark of a healer. Okay, so yeah, you definitely have healing abilities that want to be used, right? So that's, you know, thank goodness you're helping people with their happiness, because Lord knows we need it, right? So, so those are just some things to look for in the hands. Also, you know, I do want to point out this region down here we call Luna is the least accessible part of your hand. This is the deep subconscious and the area of receiving. Okay, so sometimes people have, you know, a big Venus, which is the giving energy, but they have maybe a depleted Luna. So in your hands, I see a little bit of pink here that's maybe a little more pink than the rest of the hand. This is definitely saying that you are actively engaged in receiving more. Okay, so anytime I see like this redness, it's like I want more of that. I'm looking for more control in that area of my life. So this is also like your sacral chakra. You can think of it like that. So, so anyway, those are just some little things to look at in the hands. But yeah, I
Amazing.
thought that would be kind of
It's
fun to
so
take a look at.
interesting. I mean, like
Yeah.
it's just amazing. It's
Yeah.
the blueprint of the hand.
Yeah, yeah, hands are quite revealing. But yeah, you have beautiful hands. And I
Thank
knew I
you.
would see some amazing things on them, so glad I could point
Well,
those
thank
out.
you for reading them. It's like it's so, I mean, I look at it, I see a hand, you know, I don't
Yeah,
see all that, but it's so cool. I love
yeah,
it, love it, love it.
yeah. Hands are a great diagnostic tool to just understand what's going on, you know, on so many different levels. But yeah, but the good news is, like I said, you can transform the challenges, and that's really what it's all about. So
So the lines can change, like when you
Absolutely.
transform your mental, they change. That's so cool.
100%. Yeah, I've tracked people over a long period of time, you know. So it's fun to see how things change and grow and evolve and yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's really
I
fun.
should tell my clients before that we start to you, and
Uh-huh.
then like the after, so we see the difference. I'm curious.
It
It's so
is.
amazing.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see what transformations can happen. So, all right. So, how can people work with you? And tell us a little bit about that. Tell us about your website and
Okay.
everything else.
So my website is thebonvivantgirl.com, but I want to make it simple for you. If you type my name, Nathalie Botros, but Natalie, it's the French way,
Hmm.
NATHALIEBOTROS.com. You can link to my website. And there you can have access to all my social media, all my everything, all the services that I propose. And I'm doing now, I'm coaching only a small group of people to find work-life harmony, not balance, harmony.
Mm.
Because I think that we need this harmony, this alignment in our life to be happy. So it's a 12-week program, and the first month we walk on you, the second month we walk on your relationship, and the third month we walk on finding the alignment, the harmony between your personal and professional life and like thrive in both without guilt and burnout.
Sounds like something a lot of people could use. So,
Yes,
all right.
yes.
Well, yeah, thank you so much. I mean, this was terrific. Lots of
Thank you
good
so much for
ideas.
having me.
So, all right. And as always, everyone, we love your input. If you have something you want us to talk about on the show, please let us know. And otherwise, we will see you next time. And let's all ascend together. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks for joining us on Life Ascended, where you can discover your divine potential every day. Please show your support by tuning in, following, sharing your comments, and inviting others to listen. Take it further by visiting ascension17.com for deeper spiritual growth, guidance, programs, and products.